Today's lesson is called The Fiddler, Day 1. Hi everyone, my name is Jeff.
And I'm Roger. Today is our literature unit, and we're going to be talking about a work of literature from Herman Melville. Maybe you've heard about him. We could talk about his novel Moby Dick, but I don't believe we have enough time for that in today's program. So what we're going to do instead is talk about one of his short stories entitled The Fiddler. A fiddler, of course, is a person who plays the violin.
Yes, a fiddler is someone who plays the violin, okay, but they don't really play it seriously. They don't play that violin in an orchestra or something like that. Usually a fiddler is a person who plays the violin or the fiddle, and they play simple folk songs on that violin. Yeah, a fiddler will call his or her violin a fiddle. Okay, and no one who plays violin for an orchestra, let's say, will ever call their violin a fiddle. They will call their violin a violin. They might even say, oh, this is a Stradivarius violin, and they call themselves violinists. But a simple player of the violin or a fiddle might call themselves a fiddler and might have a really good time while playing folk tunes with others on their fiddle or their violin. Anyways, that's enough for fiddlers. Let's go ahead and talk about Herman Melville, who is one of the great American authors. He is author to Moby Dick, which many consider to be the finest American novel. But like Roger said before, that book is long and dense. There's no way we could ever cover that in one lesson. So instead, we're going to focus on a story by the name of The Fiddler, and we'll get started with that right after this.
The Fiddler. Moby Dick author Herman Melville was born in 1819 in America. He wrote several novels, essays, poems, and short stories. However, he didn't make much money during his life, and his books sold poorly. It wasn't until after his death that he became celebrated. Today, he is known as one of the great American writers.
大家好，今天第一个单字我们看到的是 author。这个字当作名词，代表作者、作家的意思。所以我们可以说 Roger met the author of this book and got her to sign it. Roger 与这本书的作者见面，还请他在上面签名。
It's time now to discuss our article for today. The Fiddler is a short story by Herman Melville. So here in the first paragraph it says, Moby Dick author Herman Melville was born in 1819 in America, in the United States of America. Now, a person who writes a novel or writes a book is the author. The author of Life of Pi was who? I don't remember who wrote
Jan
that.
Martel, I believe.
Jan Martel is the author of Life of Pi, a famous Canadian novel that was made into a movie directed by none other than Ang Lee. But in any case here, yes, the author of Moby Dick was Herman Melville, and he was born a long time ago in America, way back in 1819, so he's no longer alive.
He is most definitely not still alive. Herman Melville is long dead, but his writings, they live on. Moby Dick was one of his great pieces of writing, and we have not covered that in this magazine, but a few years ago, we covered another one of Melville's stories on this program. We talked about Bartleby the Scrivener, which was quite a good story as well. But today, the name of the Melville story that we're going to be reading is The Fiddler. Anyways, Moby Dick author Herman Melville was born in 1819, and yes, Herman Melville was a writer. He was an author. He was a person who wrote stuff for a living for the most part, though he was kind of a failure. Yeah, Moby Dick is a masterpiece, but when he wrote it, people didn't really like it, okay? People thought it was junk. They liked the novels that he had written before Moby Dick. He wrote a series of adventure novels on the sea, people going to amazing and far-off places on boats and stuff like that, sailing across the Pacific Ocean and stuff like that. People loved that. They did not like Moby Dick. They thought it was too deep and weird and stuff like that. So he kind of failed after publishing Moby Dick. He failed as a writer, and I believe he started working in like a passport office or something like that. It's kind of a sad story. Anyways, more on Melville. He wrote several novels, essays, poems, and short stories. However, he didn't make much money during his life, and his books sold poorly. And get this, it wasn't until after his death that he became celebrated. He didn't become famous in his lifetime, folks. He only became famous after he died. Now, if you are celebrated, you are admired, okay? You are highly admired, or you are renowned. R-E-N-O-W-N-E-D.
For example, I could say Stephen Hawking was a celebrated mathematician and physicist. So in any case here, yes, Herman Melville did not become famous until after he was dead. He became celebrated after his death, and today he is known as one of the great American writers. And just like Vincent van Gogh, he wasn't popular when he was alive, but now he is a lot of good that is doing him now. Okay, everybody, let's move on now to the next part of our lesson. We'll actually start talking about our featured short story, The Fiddler.
In The Fiddler, we meet a poet, Helmstone, who has just learned that his latest poem received a bad review. Angry, he storms out into the street. There, he runs into an old friend named Standard. Standard introduces Helmstone to Hoboy, a short and round man. Although his gray hair suggests that he is over 40, Hoboy is youthful and merry.
第二部分我们看到的单字是 youthful， 这个字当作形容词，它有富有青春活力的或是年轻的意思。例如 Some of the youthful dancers on the stage could do some amazing moves. 舞台上富有青春活力的舞者们能够做出一些惊人的舞步。另外，这个字去掉形容词字尾 ful 后，就会变成名词 youth， 是年少时期的意思。那我们就可以说 Sometimes Kevin misses his youth. Kevin 有时会怀念他的年少时光。
Okay, Herman Melville didn't make much money during his life by writing books. Today, though, he's known as being probably the finest American author, or one of the great American authors, and he is the author of our featured story for today, and tomorrow, a story called The Fiddler. Anyways, in The Fiddler, in this story, we meet a poet, Helmstone, who has just learned that his latest poem received a bad review. Which kind of sounds like maybe Melville when he was waiting to hear what people thought of Moby Dick. Okay, he published Moby Dick. It almost killed him, apparently. It was very difficult for him to write. He published Moby Dick, and he waited, and then bad news came in droves. No one bought the thing, and critics thought it was a piece of junk. Poor guy. Anyways, we talked about what a fiddler was during the introduction, but very simply, a fiddler is a person who plays the fiddle or the violin, but they do so in an informal way. They don't play for an orchestra or anything like that. They might play their violin or their fiddle for fun, and they might play folk songs or simple songs just for fun.
Yeah, The Fiddler here, I just can't help but thinking of the famous Broadway musical, The Fiddler on the Roof, and that song is running through my head right now. Da, 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 da. But we'll have to stick to the subject at hand here. This story has nothing to do with The Fiddler on the Roof. It's called The Fiddler by Herman Melville, and in The Fiddler we meet a poet, Helmstone, who has just learned that his latest poem received a bad review. So a poet, of course, is someone who writes poems, like T.S. Eliot, or even Shakespeare was a poet as well. But this particular poet, Helmstone, tries to make a living from writing poems, but his latest poem does not do very well. It received a bad review. A critic somewhere didn't like the poem and said some bad things about that poem. So, of course, Helmstone is probably very depressed.
Not really. He's kind of angry. I know this because of the next sentence. It says, angry, he storms out into the street. So apparently he reads this bad review and he kind of loses his temper and he heads out into the street, and he might not even be paying attention to his surroundings. He just leaves that place with a lot of force because he's angry, because he's lost his temper. And there, because he's not really paying attention, I guess, there he runs into an old friend named Standard. Now, I don't think he actually ran into this person. I don't know if there was a collision or anything like that. But if you do storm out of a place, you might run into someone because, yes, you've lost your temper and you might not be in control of the way that you feel. But here, I don't think that he's going to actually run into this person and collide with them or crash into them. No. When you run into an old friend, and that's what I think is happening here, when you run into someone, okay, in this particular situation, you encounter this person unexpectedly, okay? You run into them on the street and say, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. I didn't plan to meet up with you, but it's nice that we were able to meet up with one another in an unexpected way. Yes, to run into someone is to encounter that person, and you had no idea that you were going to do so. You had no plan to do so. Now, you can also bump into someone in the same way, okay? You run into someone or you bump into someone. In both situations, you encounter this person, but you don't actually run into them or bump into them.
Yeah, for example, last time after we finished our program, I ran into an old friend in the alley behind the office building here, and we had a nice conversation. I ran into an old friend. In this particular case, though, in the story, we've got Helmstone, and he's angry. He has stormed out into the street, and he ran into an old friend, and that old friend's name is Standard. Interesting name, Standard. Well, Standard introduces Helmstone to Hoboy, who is a short and round man. So if you describe someone as short, well, that means they're not very tall. If you describe them as round, it kind of means they're a little fat, a little pudgy.
There you go. They're round about the waist there because they've got a little extra weight. So they're a little bit fat. Anyways, Hoboy, a short and round young man. And yes, Standard has just introduced Helmstone to him. And although his gray hair suggests that he is over 40, Hoboy is youthful and merry. So he's old, over 40, but also youthful in manner. So the way he acts, he doesn't act like he's over 40 years of age. He's youthful. He acts as though he's young. Yes, here we've got this word youthful to talk about. It's an adjective, and it means full of youth. If you act in a youthful way, you act as though you were young. Yes, if you're youthful, you're young, or you feel like you're young, and you feel like you're filled with life and vigor as if you were young.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are young. It just means you're acting like a young person. This word is often used to describe older people who still are optimistic about life. I could say that my friend Mr. Cunningham is youthful, even though he is over 80 years old. So here, yes, he's got some gray hair, so that kind of means that he's probably over 40 years old, but he is very youthful in his outlook, and he's merry. He's very happy, okay? That brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson. Let's move on to the third part, and we'll listen first.
Helmstone is convinced to join Hoboy and Standard at the circus to see a famous clown. At the circus, though, Helmstone is more interested in Hoboy than the clown. He especially admires Hoboy's excitement and childlike joy over the show. Helmstone even slowly starts to forget about the bad review. Later, the three men get something to eat, and Helmstone realizes why Hoboy is so happy, because he calmly accepts both the positive and negative aspects of life.
第三部分我们看到的单字是 convince， 这个字当作动词，代表说服或是使信服的意思。例如 The little boy convinced his father to buy him a toy. 那个小男孩说服他爸爸买玩具给他。又或者我们可以说 I am not convinced that David is the best person for the job. 我不相信 David 是该工作的最佳人选。接下来我们看到的单字是 circus， 这个字当作名词，它有马戏团或是马戏表演的意思。所以我们可以说 At the circus, Johnny watched a man make lions jump through hoops. 在马戏团里 Johnny 看到一个男人让狮子跳过圈圈。下一个我们看到的单字是 admire， 这个字当作动词，代表欣赏或是称赞的意思。例如，我们走过公园，欣赏所有的花草树木。英文可以这么说 We walked through the park and admired all the trees and flowers. 顺便补充一下，在这个字的后面加上 r 就会变成 admirer， 指爱慕者或是倾慕者。因此我们可以这么说 A secret admirer sends Ruth flowers every Friday. 有个神秘爱慕者每周五都会送花给 Ruth。 今天最后一个单字我们看到的是 aspect， 这个字当作名词，还有面向、层面或是方面的意思。例如 Paul looked at every aspect of the problem before he tried to solve it. Paul 在试着解决问题前检视它的每个面向。或者我们也可以这样说There are many aspects to Tom's character that his wife couldn't understand. Tom 的性格中有许多层面是他太太无法了解的。
All right, folks, before the break, we learned about a poet named Helmstone. He's a poet. And next, something strange is going to happen to Helmstone, the poet. Get this, Helmstone is convinced to join Hautboy and Standard at the circus to see a famous clown. Now, usually poets are very serious writers. You wouldn't expect a poet to go to a circus, and see a clown. So this is a little bit strange. I wonder what's going to happen to Helmstone, the serious poet, when he goes to the circus. Now, it says here that Helmstone is convinced to join Hautboy and Standard at the circus. He's convinced to go to the circus. Now, if you're convinced to do something, someone has persuaded you. They've persuaded you successfully, okay? Helmstone apparently, Hautboy and Standard, they convince him, or they make him think that going to the circus is a good idea. Now, more on a circus. A circus is a traveling entertainment show featuring clowns and magic and acrobats and wild animals and all sorts of stuff like that. One thing about circuses, though, folks, for the most part, circuses are held in a tent. Under the big top tent, that's where circuses are held.
Yeah, about 10 years ago, I took my daughter to the Moscow Circus, which was being performed here in Taipei. But when I was a kid, of course, my father took me and my sister to the Shrine Circus in Sioux City, Iowa. I do have some fond memories of that, where they had, animals and trapeze artists and jugglers and clowns and stuff like that. So in any case, Hautboy here and Standard are going to the circus, and they say, hey, Helmstone, we know you're kind of mad about that bad review about your poem, but hey, maybe if you go to the circus, you'll forget all about that. So Helmstone is convinced to go with them to see the circus, and they're going there to see a famous clown. And at the circus, though, Helmstone is more interested in Hautboy than the clown. So Helmstone here has met Hautboy. He thinks Hautboy is an interesting kind of person. Maybe he doesn't really like clowns or something like that. Not everybody does like clowns. I don't especially love them, but I don't hate them either. But in any case here, Helmstone is not particularly interested in the clown, but he is interested in Hautboy. He admires him. He especially admires Hautboy's excitement and childlike joy over the show. So here, Hautboy is probably over 40, but he's got this youthful outlook on life, and Helmstone probably is kind of bitter and cynical, especially because someone didn't like his poem. So he needs some cheering up. He needs to have his spirit lifted. And there's Hautboy. He's excited and he's childlike. He admires his excitement and his youthful joy over the show. He admires that. If you admire something, that means you really like that thing. You can really respect it.
Yeah, he's got some respect for Hautboy. Here he is, he's angry, he just got a bad review for his poem, he doesn't know what to do, and he runs into Hautboy, and he likes him immediately and can respect certain things about Hautboy. Most of which, though, what he really likes about this guy is the fact that he still has excitement in his life. Ho Boy is excited about things and still has childlike joy, which is kind of cool. Now, Helmstone, more on Helmstone here. Helmstone even slowly starts to forget about the bad review for his poem. And then later, the three men get something to eat, and Helmstone realizes why Ho Boy is so happy, because he calmly accepts both the positive and negative aspects of life. So it sounds like maybe Ho Boy is a bit of a Taoist. He can take the yin and the yang, the black and the white, the good and the bad. He can take them all together. Anyways, here we have the word aspect to talk about. If we're talking about aspects of something, we're talking about parts of that thing, usually important parts of that thing.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our lesson for today. Let's now listen to our Chinese teacher.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第二部分提到，在小提琴手这部作品里啊，有一位诗人知道他最新的诗得到负评，他就很生气，气冲冲的跑到街上。那课文里的句子是 Angry, he storms out into the street。 这个句子啊，它有用到分词构句的句型，它原本可以写作 He is angry and he storms out into the street。那它是以对等连接词 and 来连接两个主词相同的子句。好，那由于我们前后两个子句的主词都是 he， 我们就可以省略连接词 and 还有其中一个主词，然后再把省略主词它后面的动词改成分词形式。如果这个动词是主动的时候，就用现在分词，那被动的时候就是用过去分词。好，那我们先把连接词 and 还有前半句的主词 he 省略，再把 be 动词 is 改成现在分词 being， 这样句子就变成 Being angry, he storms out into the street。 好，由于 being 常常被省略不用，我们才会看到 angry, he storms out into the street 这样的句子。那我们来造一个例句。 Upset, she locked herself in her room。 她很不高兴，把自己锁在房间里。好，那下次同学们再看到形容词逗号主词加动词这样的句型，就要记得它是由分词构句省略 being 而来的句型。那这个形容词就是用来修饰主词。另外要补充 storm 这个字在课文里面的用法。 storm 当名词它有暴风雨的意思，不过它在这里啊是当不及物动词，表示气冲冲的冲啊、快走啊或者是闯。我们可以用 storm 加上 out of，或是加上 into， 或是加上 through， 后面再接名词来表达怒气冲冲的离开某个地方啊，或是闯入某个地方等等。像是 His girlfriend stormed out of the apartment， 他的女朋友气冲冲气噗噗的离开公寓了。好，接着读到课文的下一句。There he runs into an old friend named Sander。 在那里啊，他遇到一个名叫 Standard 的老友。好，那句子里面的 an old friend named Standard， 它本来可以写作 an old friend who is named Standard。 这个先行词 an old friend 一个老朋友，它不是明确特定的对象，所以它是用限定用法关系子句 who is named Standard 来修饰，去限定它的范围，说明说一个老朋友，那是什么样的老朋友呢？是一位名叫 Standard 的老友。好，那接着你可以省略关系代名词 who 还有 be 动词 is， 只保留后方的过去分词 named。 像这样子把关系子句简化成名词加上现在分词或是加上过去分词的结构，这样就是分词片语的用法。我们来造一个例句。Do you know the woman who is wearing a pink dress？ 你认识那一位穿着粉红色洋装的女子吗？那把 who is 省略，只留下现在分词 wearing， 我们句子就可以简化成 Do you know the woman wearing a pink dress？ 好，那以上就是今天的重点整理，我们来回顾今天的单字吧。
Author. The author has a new book that you can buy next week. Youthful.Despite his age, Dennis has a youthful face. Convince. I convinced my sister to drive me to the airport. Circus. We saw many amazing acts at the circus last night. Admire. Savannah admired the singer's powerful voice. Aspect. The movie explores various aspects of growing up in a small town.
Okay, everyone. With that, today's article is now complete. But, as always, we sure hope that you guys have enjoyed reading along with us. Anyways, I'm Jeff.
I am Roger.
See you next time.